It's Snap.
Rosalind and Snap on 102.7 WMOM, 8:19, 19 minutes after 8 o'clock. It is a Thursday morning, March 2nd. Welcome to it. Chris here in the studio, and so is Carla Shea, the Community Employment and Living Support Services Coordinator for West Michigan CMH. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, and thanks for coming in this morning, as well as Laura Rule. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. We started on a good foot. This is a good thing. And you are a specialist for West Michigan CMH, and we're going to be talking to the two of you this morning. And the topic is, as we enter the month of March, we're talking about Developmental Disability Awareness Month. And that is kind of that, umbrella term for what we're going to talk about. And that's where the two of you are going to help educate me and ultimately the listening audience out there. And by the way, if you want to, you can listen to the segment not only on your radio, but also on your smart devices, your Amazon Alexa, your Google Home at WMOM.FM. And we're streaming this live with the cameras here in the studio on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Carla, let's start with you for a moment here. And I say that umbrella term of the Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Yep. You got to help me diagnose what that is about. And let's break it down for the listeners, if you don't mind.
Sure. I guess it all started in 1987 when Ronald Reagan proclaimed that we were going to bring awareness to developmental disabilities. And those disabilities include autism, cerebral palsy, any type of intellectual disorder, ADHD, any disorders, the kids that, we remember from the special education classes back in high school, right? Mm-hmm. Recognizing them, bringing awareness. What are we doing to bring inclusion? No longer segregating folks into, used to be institutions, sheltered workshops were the places that people went after high school graduation, and that's where they stayed until they were done working, right? And
you bring up a good point there, is that we tend to lose contact with those individuals right. that we're not surrounded with mm-hmm. on a daily basis, and we wonder, what's happened to them. Yep. But also in your opening remarks there, too, is that we have come a long way in regards to facilities, in regards to services, in regards to peer and mentoring that is out there. And that's one thing we're going to be talking about with West Michigan CMH deeper in this conversation. Yep. But you also brought up the idea that these disabilities still are part of, they haven't gone away, right? They're still part of our lives out there.
Absolutely. And, and you mentioned something, it has even changed in the last 5 years. Things have changed since COVID. Things have changed since post-COVID. Mm-hmm. We are much less sheltered workshop based and much more community based now than we were 3 years ago.
Absolutely. And you brought Laura with you. And Laura,
yes.
We're going to kind of dive into chatting with you as well about this, because you're working with these clients on a day-to-day basis and being able to get them through those hurdles, I guess I'll say it that way, those challenges of having these disabilities. Do you mind explaining some of the disabilities that you work with and some of the challenges that they have, just so that we can relate more to those individuals?
Well, thank you. Carla uses the term inclusion, and I would just like to say that when I work with the individuals that I'm privileged to work with and support and walk by, I consider them unique abilities. And I think all of us have to work through the stigma that kind of is associated with people on the broad spectrum of whether it's, mental impairment or physical disabilities, and look at them as a person mm-hmm. and learn about their story and listen to their story. And even when they can't speak, they can still tell their story through various body language. And certainly as we build trust with individuals, we have that opportunity to find creative ways in which to integrate them more proactively in the community. Mm-hmm. And vice versa, the community needs to welcome us. Mm. And so, that's a broad overview of what, I walk into every day. And I think the other is getting beyond the fear oh my gosh, he's 2.5 feet taller than I am, so to speak, and he's bigger, or she is, or he, whatever. And then look at them as a person and find and discover with them what they're capable of, and rather than seeing them as disabled.
And one of the kind of mysteries that we always, as a general population, I think about is, one, are we doing what we need to do to include those individuals, to be able to create that comfortable environment? Because, as you know, when we see somebody different than ourselves, we tend to either look at them differently or act differently or treat them differently. Are we doing, and it's kind of a two-part question, Laura, are we doing better as a society, would be the first part of my question. And the second is, for those individuals that you work with, do they see that we're doing a better job?
I would say that they're conscious of it, as Carla referred, over the last 3 years. Oftentimes, if there's a change that they sense, and it doesn't have to be big, and they can reflect it right back at us. Well, I don't really, I really don't want to do that, or I don't like that. I want to try that. And somehow building on that trust, they begin to see their own possibility. Well, maybe I'll consider it. And also deal with their emotional responses as well, because sometimes it stimulates anger or frustration because I've never done it that way before, on the individual side of it. And then on community side of it, I think we can do better. Okay. And that's my take on it. And I think that what I'm finding, and actually kind of a newbie into the Ludington community. Everybody's new to me. And so I want to meet everybody out there that is willing to open their hearts and their doors and, the possibilities that can exist. And we had an encounter last week where somebody from the community worked with us, identified someone who may end up with a job because of the potential.
That was super exciting.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about those gathering sites that lead to this in just a moment. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Carla Shea, Laura Rule from West Michigan CMH, and we're talking about Developmental Disability Awareness Month, the options that are out there. And Carla, you as the coordinator for Lake Oceana Mason County for West Michigan CMH there in the Community Employment and Living Support Services. Can I say this? Can I put this question out there and say that it's really no different in Mason County versus Lake County versus Oceana County? People they have these challenges that they go through, and it doesn't matter where they live.
Oh, absolutely. And what we've found across the three counties is that our collaboration with local business partners is the same. It doesn't matter if you're a large Mason County where you have a lot of industry and small business owners, they're opening their doors to us. And it's the same in Oceana County and Lake County, even though, the numbers of businesses are much lower and we're not getting a lot of pushback like, oh no, you can't come in here. People are opening their doors across the counties, allowing us to learn about their businesses and to get in and work and volunteer. The collaboration across counties has been incredible. And, the pandemic slowed things down a little bit, but boy, have we been, we're steamrolling ahead.
Do you mind me asking, though, the flip side of that question, though, is there anything that is a difference, though, between somebody in the city or us in the city versus that rural community?
Oh, sure. Well, here in the city, we have a lot of people that live in the city, so they can just walk to work. They can walk to the stores. They can walk to their volunteer sites or get on their local dial-a-ride. So transportation continues to be an issue, across counties if you don't live right in the city of Ludington or on the US 10 corridor. So yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest obstacle when you get out to Lake County and the outskirts of Oceana counties.
Okay. All right. Good information. Let's talk about the gathering sites. What is that? Tell me about it.
Okay, so what they used to be called is like your sheltered workshop. Folks would graduate from high school, typically around the age of, sometimes 18. They can stay in school until 26. And they were looking for a job. They wanted to be normal. They wanted to go to work. So they come to the sheltered workshops, which are now, considered gathering sites. And honestly, not everybody comes to the gathering sites anymore. Sometimes they're just picked up in the morning and they go to their volunteer site. Then they might go to lunch and then go to work in the afternoon or go do something fun. Laura's going to talk about some fun things that we do. They might go, some bowling, we do mini golfing, we go hiking. We do a lot of the things that you and I take for granted, right? What do you do in the summer? Well, we go to the beach. Well, what do our folks want to do? They want to go to the beach, so we go to the beach. So we do a lot more community-based. When I first started, 3.5 years ago, it was everybody came to the sheltered workshop. We did some work in the morning, and then we went out in the afternoon. Again, we have folks that don't even come into the sheltered workshop, but really it's a safe place for people to gather. They get to see their friends, have a cup of coffee, talk about what happened on the game last night. Yeah. And then they go do what they want to do.
Laura, how much do we take that for granted, that when we aren't around with others, that I would assume distance and isolation happens, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to add a little spin-off to what you asked, Carla, and that is even with the 3 counties, we're finding ourselves doing more collaboration. Granted that Mason County has more resources, and so we invite the other counties to join us, depending on what the activity is, that they can expand the horizons of their consumers. And for us, I mean, I kid you not, some people think going to the state park is opening up their world, their window of what their life is meant. And the other thing is kind of a subliminal element. It's surprising how much community lies within all of them. What happens to one, everybody knows it. I don't know how it gets communicated, but they know everybody's business. Yep. And I say that with, really with respect, because they care about each other. And coming together, to, the workplace or the job site or whatever, they reminisce. They talk about the days when they were in school together and how much they miss that. And taking cues from those types of feedback gives me feedback to say, hey, they're missing what? How come we can't do something here to recreate it at another level of their lives? So can I use a for instance on this? Like, for instance, everyone knows here in Ludington, we have the Petunia Parade. Last year, we took the Ferry Street, plotting along there, and we planted, and we weeded, and we took care of. And it was amazing how even people from not even our own area were walking by saying, thank you so much. Are you going to plant mums in the fall? Because no, we're doing petunias here. But again, some of that is shared and invited into, so everyone can have that experience that chooses to have that experience.
And if you think about that experience alone, I mean, before this past summer, I bet they didn't even know what Petunia Parade was. I'm not sure that a lot of my staff knew that, you could sign up and do a section of the road. And it was a great experience. And, and kudos to Laura for setting that up for everybody. And
we have, just in the conversation between the two of you, it seems like we have advanced in many areas, and we continue to do that. And services like with West Michigan CMH, with the gathering sites, that is an important part of it. And so my question to you, Laura, is what do you think they take away from it? I mean, from an emotional standpoint, obviously the experience is there, the interaction, being able to see the flowers bloom or be able to walk through the park and see the birds and the animals. But the emotional side, what is that?
Oh, that's a really good point. Over the course of the last couple of months, we've began an inspiration group. Yes, I'm spearheading it. But aside from all things, because I was very concerned about that very thing, it would not be uncommon to find one of our consumers sitting in our lounge just crying, thinking about all the above. And the more I paid attention to that, I realized that they needed that safe zone to be able to go and express whatever that may be and whatever that's related to. So to kind of put a spin on a broader element of energy, going to learn about the food club, and then the food club connected to the U-Dig garden. Now we're doing 2 boxes of the U-Dig, and we're watching things grow. We're harvesting them. We're taking them to U-Dig to help the community. And because of that, people are more excited about the fact that I want to come here. I want to get involved. When are we going back there? And equally as such as the community recognizes our involvement, they're welcoming them. And that is really providing a very strong base of support. You know, Carla and I are not going to last forever, and along with the other team members that are as valuable as we are, you know, someday we know now that they are developing and continuing to develop life skills for that unique abilities that they have, so that, you know, in the event of, we know they can get there, they know where to go, they're learning how to do and maybe even do their own garden in their own front yard.
You know, it really is the answer to integration. You know, we're integrated in our community. If you look at all the things we've done this past year, it's incredible.
And we talked about the Petunia Parade and the You Dig Garden and such. Is there just one or two others that, from a public standpoint, that we didn't know about that you can share this morning?
The
Walk for Trees?
Yeah, the Walk for Trees. We're going to try to get integrated into, it's running, but we're going to call it walking. Running for the trees, because we know the environment needs our help. We're going to the state park today. We're going to talk about collaboration in the environmental awareness area, and get them, very, very gradually, if not already been involved in it, at another level where they can give and then receive back. So, there's a lot of doors that are opening in all the counties, and it's up to us, I think, to just get out there and pioneer ahead and find out where we can be creative in getting them integrated with their skills.
And you're not doing this alone. When you look at the collaboration between your partners, Meyer and Lundquist, Ludington Senior Center, the Bookmark, Floorcraft, West Shore Community College, the Whitehall Industries, Oceana County Courthouse, the River Community Center in Baldwin, State Police. There's just a lot of collaboration that happens. How important, Carla, is that partnership?
Oh, we couldn't do it without the partnership. Because if you look at our partnerships, just in your day-to-day lives, your work, whether or not you volunteer, are you active in community sports? I mean, those things aren't going to happen unless you've collaborated with somebody in the community. So without our community partners, we can't do our best work for the people that we serve.
All right, good points there. Final questions as we wrap up. Laura, what can we do? Is a two-part. What can we do from a community standpoint to move the ball forward even more? And the second part is, from a business standpoint, what can we do to help you?
I would say, engage in the conversations with us, be creative, within the realm of legal realities because of work and volunteering. That's something that we need to do. The other is that, from our part, we need to continue to walk beside all the individuals that are entrusted to our care, to be able to listen to them and empower them so that we can find where they fit, give them a shot at it, and support them the best we can.
Very powerful. And Carla, I would assume you're pretty proud of your team.
Yes.
They are doing great things, and it sounds like it's being active. There's field trips a lot, and so it sounds like it's a really good service.
Absolutely.
And so, how can, if somebody's listening to the segment today, and maybe they have a disability, what's the next step for them?
Well, if you're not already connected with community mental health, you make that call. Okay. And we're part of the service array package. But another thing that we didn't touch on, and I don't know how much time we have, was we also have employment services. We have folks just like you and I who are looking for work, who need to learn the skills to be successful on the job. So they may work on those skills at the gathering sites, or they may work on those skills on the job with a job coach. And depending on what your unique needs are, will depend on what kind of job they get, where they're going to start out. We have a really awesome story of a guy that started working at Meyer about a year ago. We had been at the gathering site for quite a while, all through high school, and he said, I really want to get a job. So we're like, okay. He was really interested in Meyer. His mom shopped there. So we went out there, and he was real anxious starting, was there with a job coach, which is one of my staff who was there with him the whole time he was working. faded out as he became, more comfortable and more, able to do his job independently. And, I'll tell you, about a month ago, he was asked to train somebody else in his department.
Very cool.
So he is a huge success story. And then we also have a young man that works at the Hart State Police Post and in janitorial work. They were looking for somebody to clean, and nobody would stay. They'd hire them, and then they'd leave. They hire them, and then we'd leave. And, I have a social connection there. And, I had a conversation with the post commander, and we gave this a try, and this individual interviewed, there was he had to fingerprint, background check, drug testing. It was, just like you and I were applying at the Hart Police Post. He did get the job, and he's been super successful. He's currently there with a job coach, but the post commander just told me yesterday, I think he's ready to fly solo. So talk about another huge success. And again, it's the individuals we're working with and my team. I have an amazing team.
That's fantastic to hear those stories, and that goes back to part of that question just a moment ago from a business standpoint. Businesses like the partners that we listed and those scenarios that you mentioned, we can open the doors. We can be more open to hiring individuals, and there's a loyalty too as well that I'm sure you have seen over the years working with individuals with disabilities, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'd like to add too, sustainability is a critical element. I'd like to put a plug in. Carla mentioned in Lake County, they have the river, which is a newly opened community center. Yeah. I'm well aware of there's an energy here in Ludington that would like to see that dream come true. And in having conversations with some of the people at the grassroots level of that project, they would love to work with us to sustain the future of something that could be a watering hole for the whole community to come together, where we integrate multi-generations and sustain not only ourselves, but them to, have a full, meaningful and purposeful life. And so I just want to put a plug in. I know that there is that energy happening here, and I just would like to put a personal plug to all the businesses to help that come alive and the dream come true.
All right, let's keep that conversation going. It sounds like we're just scratching the surface on a lot of opportunities ahead of us. Laura, we appreciate you coming in. Carla, the same thing. Thanks for being with us this morning.
It's wonderful.
Let's keep this conversation going. And I know with it being Developmental Disability Awareness Month, and it's just March 2nd, we have a lot of opportunity to converse about this throughout the month. And not only from a West Michigan CMH and radio standpoint, but the public out there. So let's keep the conversation going. If you missed any of this segment, you can watch it in its entirety at WMOM on Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel at 1027 WMOM. It is 8:42 on your station playing your hit music, 102.7. It's Mom FM.
Did you know that you can say, "Hey Alexa, wake me up to WMOM at 6 a.m.? Yeah, you can wake up to Chris in the morning every morning.